Hi, beautiful people. You're welcome. Thank you so much for clicking. My name is Bukumi. So, Dr. Bill Warner is going to explain to us why he believes Islam is not a religion but a political ideology. Wow. All right, let's listen to him.
My question is, the opening question, is that this is known as the religion of Islam, but you call it political Islam. Why?
Well, it's an interesting thing to talk about. Most people, if you ask them, say that Islam is a religion based on the Quran, but it's not a religion and it's not based on the Quran.
Ow.
Muslims themselves say that Islam is a complete way of life, a total life system. It tells you how to have sex, it tells you how to go to the bathroom, it tells you how to have children, it tells you how to marry, it tells you how to have insurance. You don't, and everything else. So to call it a religion is too small. And besides that, like I say, the Muslims that I know say that it is a complete way of life, a complete philosophy. And the other thing is, it's not only based on the Quran, because if you read the Quran and you know what Islam is, you notice several things that are unusual. I'm assuming now that you put the Quran in the right time order and collected things together, but that's to the aside. So there's not enough information in the Quran to practice the religion of Islam. For instance, it says pray. Actually, it says pray 3 times a day, but the Sunnah calls for prayer 5 times a day. But the problem is that you cannot be a Muslim by
Three,
just
five.
what's based on the Quran. The way out of this is simple. There are 89 verses. And by the way, you can tell from the way I talk, I'm a scientist. I love to measure things. There are 89 verses which say that Muhammad is the perfect guide to life. He's what I call the divine human prototype. He is exactly how a person should live their life, how they should speak. And so he is, if you will, the perfect pattern to be a human being. So, but how do we know about Muhammad?
Okay.
Well, we find out about Muhammad because we're easily by reading his life, the Sirah, the biography, and the Hadith, his traditions. So Islam is based on Quran, Sirah, Hadith, not just the Quran. And this is good news because, for one thing, if you want to learn about Islam, the place you start is you don't start off reading about the Quran, you start out reading about the life of Muhammad. The reason is simple. When you read the life of Muhammad, you understand the whole picture.
Oh, really?
And it gives you, and the other thing is, you can remember a story, and his life is an incredible story. So we're dealing with Muhammad, the Sunnah, the perfect path, and the Quran. So, but now then, once we understand what we're dealing with, that is, we can now put our arms around Islam. We are containing it within Quran, Sirah, Hadith, so we can actually hold the whole doctrine in one hand. So this is good news because most people think that you can't understand Islam no matter what you do. But Islam actually, once you take the Quran, the Sirah, and the Hadith and edit them correctly, are very easy to read.
Okay.
So we're now left with the question, why political Islam? Well, once you know you're reading Quran, Sirah, Hadith, something strikes you immediately, particularly in the Sirah. Most of it is not about how to be a Muslim. Most of it is about what to do to the kafir, the non-Muslim.
Eh?
So this is unusual.
For Surah?
For instance, if you read Buddhist sutras, it's about how to be a Buddhist. It's not about condemning non-Buddhists. But the Quran is filled with hatred towards the non-believer, the kafirs, I call it. That's the actual word the Quran uses for us. So we're dealing with the kafir is what's peculiar about it, because it is mostly about a non-believer. If you take all the words in the Quran, the Sirah, and the Hadith and add them up, and then divide them into the parts that deal with the kafir and the parts that deal with religion, you find out that there's 51% of the text is devoted to the non-believer. This is what I call political Islam, and that is the only part of Islam that I care about. Think about it. I don't care anything at all about the religion. I mean, good, bad, or indifferent. I just have no interest in the religion of Islam. But I do have a big interest in political Islam because it talks about me. Let me give you an example of how to sort these out. In the United States now, on Fridays, in some cities where they're large enough, Muslims will commandeer the streets and lead public prayer. And you say, well, that's a religious act. The prayer is a religious act. commandeering the street is a political action. You see the difference? So what I'm concerned about is in public prayer is not what they pray to God or Allah or whoever else. I just simply don't care. But I do care about the fact that I can't drive down the street while they're praying. Because if I did that and you did that, we would have policemen write us a ticket and remove us from the street. But if Muslims do it, they get a free pass. So I want you to see that something is political when it affects us. Now, there are parts about Islam that deal only with Muslims and yet can still wind up dealing with us. For instance, in the United States, it is illegal to beat your wife. But according to the Sharia, it is possible to beat your wife. So therefore, although we might say, well, I don't care if a Muslim male beats his Muslim wife, I do if they do it in the United States because it violates our laws. As a matter of fact, political Islam violates our constitution as well. So therefore, we see what's interesting about Islam is the part that impacts us. I don't care about what impacts anybody on Judgment Day. As a matter of fact, I'm not so sure about the Judgment Day idea. The other reason is that we can talk about politics. Now, in the United States, we have a very strong constitution which guarantees religious freedom. And soon after 9/11, and by the way, 9/11 I predicted. I didn't predict it would be on the 9th on September 11th. I just predicted that we would be attacked. As a matter of fact, after we were attacked, my phone began to ring with people calling me. I got 12 calls that day saying, how did you know we were going to be attacked? I said, simple. I read the playbook. And the playbook is Quran, Sirah, Hadith. And then I read the history of Islam. Because once you understand the doctrine of political Islam and look at its history, it's very easy to predict the future. Why? They just keep doing the same thing. And why don't they change it? Because it keeps working. It works. As in America, we say, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. So it works just fine. We're seeing more and more Muslims elected into political office, and people don't know what to do. And my answer to what to do about political Islam is very simple. Study and know Islam, because it is astounding to find how little people know about Islam. Let me give you an example. One of my students is a retired FBI agent. He was talking with some young FBI agents who are currently serving, and he said, would you like to learn about political Islam? And they said, no, we don't want to know anything about political Islam. Why is that? Because if we mention Islam, we'll get in trouble. So here we have the FBI, which is supposed to handle internal security in the United States, doesn't even know anything about what Islam is. That's the reason they deal with terrorism, not jihadists. Because you can be a terrorism for any reason, but a jihadist has a plan that's 1,400 years old and he's working it. So therefore, political Islam is what we want to deal with, because political Islam is what will damage us. How a person prays doesn't affect me one way or the other. So therefore, political Islam is the part of Islam we want to deal with because it's the part that deals with us. And remember this, the majority of Islam is based on the political part. So that's briefly where I am with political Islam and why I think it's the important thing to study. My books, for instance, only deal with the political side of it. I have a book of Hadith called The Political Traditions of Muhammad, and all these Hadith deal with us. I don't give you the Hadith that deal with prayer because I'm not interested in prayer. I don't give you the part about family law. Instead, what I talk about is what affects us. So political Islam is the part we need to know and study, and we cannot defeat political Islam without knowing political Islam. Okay. We have generals here in the United States who've never read the first book on it. We have people in the State Department that don't know there's a doctrine of treaties. Yet they sit down and want to make treaties with Muslims. The treaty laws are political laws. So therefore, we want to get away from discussing the religion of Islam, which is of no interest, and we want to go to studying the politics of Islam, which affect us on a daily basis.
Wow. So this man is trying to let us understand that the religion of Islam is not what is important, but the political of Islam is what is affecting people. I'm speechless, guys. There are a lot of points he raised that I'm just trying to understand. I don't know if it makes sense or not, but to my own hearings, it kind of makes sense partially. But what do you think, guys? Do you think this man is right? Is totally right? Do Do you think all his points he raised is something that is actually happening now, is what is affecting people or affecting the nations? What do you think about him talking about, Muslims gathering on the streets to pray, in which he feels that's political? Because if it's another religion that is praying on the street, a police can harass you or they will stop you, but Muslims are allowed to do so on the street, and he feels that's not how religion should be held. What do you have to say about that? He made a lot of points. He even said something about surah, that the surah teaches on how to, I don't know, deal with your non-Muslims, or I don't know if I get that part well, but he said it does not teach about God. And he also made mention of something that one of their holy book, we have the surah, we have Injil, we have Quran, and so on like that. So he said one of the books says you should pray 3 times in a day. Another one says you should pray 5 times in a day. How true is all these things that he said? Those are the major points I got from this particular video, and he let us understand why he felt like, Islam is not a religion, but it's more of politics. Because he said most of the things that is happening, in which I don't know, he said he feels like most of those bad things, violence happening, is coming from their side, and they are interpreting, or they are doing things based on what their book says. So I don't know, guys, I'm just speechless. It's just a question. Let me know your point of view. Like, what do you think about this man raising this point to let us understand why he feels Islam is not a religion, but it's a political ideology? It's more of politics. And I'm just speechless because most of the things he said, I don't know how to weigh them, because they sound true, but I don't know if it's really true. So let me know your point of view. Let's keep discussion going. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.